Hey kids, and welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Biden's speech last night. Yes, President Joe Bob Biden Jr. Joe Bob Jr. All right, like legit, that's his name. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Joe Bob Jr. So, President Joe Bob Jr. talked last night about the COVID vaccine. And I'm going to tell you guys, all right, this is not going to be a political thing. Most people that know me know I don't like President Biden. I haven't liked him for a long time. He's been in office for a long time. I don't like the dude. Okay? And I'm not sure if it's I don't like the dude, but I definitely don't like his policies. So I originally wanted to do this political channel and this news channel and decided not to and do more of a religious channel, and I'm keeping it there. But what this channel is has to remain the same, and it is advice from Dad. So Dad watched the speech in its entirety, because I know a lot of you guys aren't going to watch the speech in its entirety. I know a lot of you guys are not going to read all these bills, the House bills, the federal bills. You're not reading them. I'm trying to give you some honest perspective on what is happening, and I'm not trying to answer all the questions. I actually want you to go look this stuff up, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and unfortunately the misinformation is coming from people that are supposed to be giving us good information. Okay, so let's not talk about the dislike I have of our elected representative, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't like any of them. I always rag on them. You have to be a little more careful now. So let's not talk bad about President Biden. Let's talk a little bit about his policies and how that affects me as a dad. Well, let's start with the vaccine requirement. All right. Number one, I am pro-vaccine. If you've watched my videos, I actually videotape myself getting the Pfizer vaccine. Look, right here. So it's an older video. Very early on, I took the vaccine because I thought it was important. And actually, you can go back to that video. I took it because I knew it was experimental. It was a lot more experimental back then. And I took it because, as a dad, I wanted to make sure that there's good information out there. And the only way to get good information out there is to have good information. And the only way to get good information is for some people to take this vaccine. Well, I took the vaccine early on. I did the research. I learned what mRNA was. I learned what this coronavirus was. I learned how they worked and all that stuff. And I still think it's pretty good technology. Here's what I don't like. I don't like these masks or these vaccine mandates. The mask, I could care less. But they're like these slippery slopes, right? So it's 2 weeks to slow the spread. Okay, just a month. Okay, wear a mask. Okay, wear 2 masks. Okay, you don't have to wear a mask. You got to wear a mask. You got to have a vaccine. You got to have the 2 vaccines. You got to have a booster. You got to have these 2 pills a day. It goes on and on. But those are just like talking points. So let's talk about what this new bill says. And I want you to Google this if you don't believe me, because I'm just talking about the speech. I have not been able to find what they are introducing. I've just been able to find summaries. However, listening to President Biden's speech last night, this is what I heard. And I want you guys to either watch it again or be on the lookout. Number one, national vaccine mandates for all federal employees and contractors. All right. Okay, here is what that means. All federal employees and contractors mean anybody that works for the government or gets money from the government to accomplish their objective, their job, their business. Which means, technically, if I wanted to have a business right now, and I have 100 or more employees, so this is 100 more employees, and I want to make sure they're all vaccinated, well, the government is going to say yes. I'm trying to think about my words, because when you're talking about the vaccine and stuff, you have to talk with complete truth, because you'll get knocked off. So if you're watching this video, it means that at least the bots know that I'm not telling lies. So here it is. Okay, so you work for a company, you got 100 employees. Let's say you work for an aviation company, okay? I don't know much about aviation, so I get to make this up. If I'm wrong, write that in the comments and explain why I'm wrong. But let's say you work in aviation and your job, your company's job, makes a dial. Just a little dial that goes on the ship and it says, you got gas or you don't have gas. Fuel gauge. You make this fuel gauge. Your company makes this wonderful fuel gauge. And you have 101 employees and you've been making this wonderful fuel gauge for these airplanes. And Halliburton comes over and says, oh man, that's a great fuel gauge. I want to put that on F-15 or Warthog or UH, whatever. They want to put the fuel gauge on a military vehicle. All of a sudden, you have a military contract. And when you have a military contract, you are now required to have or to have a vaccine or test every day. So, or every week. So here's the issue with the test. My son just had a COVID test. You have to stick this thing in your brain and wiggle it around. And even if it's a home test, you have to do that once a week. Show them proof of a negative test. Yeah, that's scary. Also, home test for COVID scare me too, because there are a lot of people that are not going to know when to stop sticking that thing in their nose, and they're going to end up with lobotomies. I don't know. I'm sure they'll be perfect. I'm sure there'll be this. I'm going to design it if they don't have it on the stick. They'll have like little nodules so that way you can't stick it in there too far. But anyway, oh my goodness. So President Biden said he made a bunch of jobs, right? Yeah. So that's awesome. He made a bunch of jobs. How did he make these jobs? Defense Production Act. He just made a bunch of these places start making more rapid tests to send out to schools. So he wants our kids to all be vaccinated. And he specifically said 12 to 17-year-olds. That just became a thing, just approved. And he's like, well, we're way behind on that. So so he wants to do that. He wants to vaccinate people under 12. That's where everything's going. And they're talking about a 5-month booster, 6-month booster, 8-month booster. It depends on who you're talking to. And there's even talk of a daily Pfizer pill to combat this disease, this virus. So anyway, so now you've made a company that just makes fuel gauges required to do vaccines, and there's no exemptions. So when there's no exemptions, you have to fire those people. There's going to be a whole lot of unemployment. So people who are willing to get the vaccine are going to have an advantage. And they're talking about, I've even heard people say, CDL drivers have to have medical cards. So it doesn't matter what state you live in. If you live in Oklahoma, red state, and your federal CDL is going to probably end up saying COVID vaccination up to date, or you're going to have to give up your CDL. Those things are the slippery slope that lead to some scary things. All right, what's something else he said? Another thing he said, and I don't like his words, I'm sure the media will spin it, but his exact words were, we need to get these governors out of our way. So he is actively going after governors that disagree with him. And he didn't say anybody specifically, but he said, if the governors are in our way, we're going to have to get them out of our way. I don't know what that means. Hopefully that means an electoral process where people vote, but I don't know with this dude. Here's another little scary part. He did say there was going to be another pandemic next year. So once we get everybody vaccinated, so we save ourselves from this pandemic, and then next year, he said there's going to be another one next year, so we're going to have to get everything in place. In Australia, they're making camps that are going to be ready next year, quarantine camps. So, hey, maybe I'm crazy, but let's see if we get some quarantine camps here in the United States, because that's kind of where Australia is going. That's kind of where we're going. There's these scary mandates. Now, there is an exemption for the post office. So if you know that if you make a mandate and all of a sudden a bunch of people quit, if you did that to the post office, the nation would stop. Doesn't matter, like Federal Express, FedEx or UPS and DHL or whatever, if there's anything else out there, if those cease to run, most people are going to starve. most people. You won't get any food, you won't get any water, you won't get any of that stuff. So they did make an exemption for the post office. So if this thing is such a scary and dangerous thing, why is the post office, like literally people that are walking all over the nation, getting an exemption? There's a little inconsistency there. So kids, if you're asking yourself what's going on, well, I'm asking myself the same thing. There's an inconsistency there. They are saying you have no right, you got to get this shot, and then in the next breath they're trying to get abortion on demand because a woman has the right to her body, but a woman doesn't have a right to her body if she doesn't want a vaccine. Here's my concern, and tell me if I'm wrong, okay? Please, in the comments, please send me some articles from some reputable places, send me a study, but tell me this. A person gets vaccinated, a person wears a mask, a person goes into a store, does all their things, and leaves. A person doesn't get vaccinated, doesn't go to a mask, goes into a store and does what they need to do and leaves. The person who wore the mask followed the rules. The person who didn't wear the mask just did whatever they wanted. See, the thing is, we kind of end up in the same place, don't we? Kind of reminds me of this story, and I've thought about it before. It's a good story about the prodigal son. You guys know this one. There's this young kid that says, hey, I'm going to take my inheritance, and he takes off. And then there's one that follows all the rules and sits back. See, the thing is, the one that follows all the rules and the one that acts like a jackass, in the end, they get to the same place. They're before their dad. They're before their father. And the father doesn't look at that one and say, hey, you're not wearing a mask, you're not vaccinated, you're not. No, he just says, hey, it's so great to see you. Let's kill this fatted calf and get this party going. Yeah, I know vaccines and all that aren't the same thing, but you know what? Early church leaders, and even as close as 50 years ago, our church goes out and we serve the people that are ill. We serve lepers. We serve, AIDS patients. We serve, or we're supposed to serve the people that need us. And these COVID shutdowns and lockdowns take us out of our community. And taking us out of our community is a dangerous thing. Because then our community is led by these leaders, quote unquote leaders, who are put there really because of money. You may have voted these people in, but you only get there with money. And usually the person with the most money wins. That's the rule. So it's just bought. It's just bought. We need to realize that our life and our community is not based on a bunch of people that live in Washington, D.C. or have never been south of the Mason-Dixon line. That's a joke, okay? I'm probably going to get flagged for that, but I live in a red state. I'm glad I live in a red state. I am. I'm glad that so far my First Amendment, my Second Amendment, and all the other amendments are pretty intact. I feel like if some of these stories are true that I'm hearing about these other places and people are just rolling over, that's a scary thought. Because sometimes the predator doesn't look like a predator. And that's how they get you. This morning, right before I was ready to start my first show today, which I'll probably only have one because of this, I heard my duck squawking. I ran outside, and there, on this duck, was a dog I don't recognize, and their friend. Now, we've lost several chickens and ducks to dogs in the neighborhood over this year. And I grabbed a golf club, and I ran after this thing. My job is to protect those ducks and chickens. Well, see, the thing is, I don't like violence against dogs. I think dogs, anybody that hurts a dog is It's just a special kind of evil to hurt a dog. Dogs are just such wonderful animals. But they're actively hurting my ducks. So there lies the dilemma. Do you take a dog's life, or do you allow the dog to kill your duck? Well, the reason the dog even has an option is because I've allowed the dog to have the option. The dog's in my yard. Dog shouldn't be in my yard. So it's my option to spend money on a bullet or let my duck die. I chose grabbing a golf club and chasing the dog down. He ran off, and then I went and took a picture of it, and I posted on Neighborhood Watch, and I said, this dog needs to stop coming in my yard. I love dogs. Dogs are going to be dogs. But there lies the issue. The dog is allowed to be in my yard without aggression from me because dogs are good in general. People are good in general. And sometimes there's some bad ones out there. And unfortunately, a lot of them are in politics right now. But to their owners or their pets or their masters, whatever, they just look like any other dog. The problem is those dogs, they're not loyal to you. They're loyal to someone else. This dog that was in my yard today was pretty vicious. I found him down the road and tried to attack my UTV. Pretty vicious dog. I posted on Facebook and just tell people, hey, find this dog. Keep these dogs out. Dogs will be dogs, but they can't be in my yard. But there's some aggressive dogs. And again, it's hard when you love an animal like a dog to think that you should just take its life. Bad things happen when you squeeze the trigger. And I just don't like doing it if I don't have to. So I'm going to fortify my space and make sure that those dogs cannot come in. And I have to close my gate. 1,600 feet of fence. And the dogs walk right in my gate, my front gate. So in our life, that's kind of the same thing. We let our politicians walk right into our front gate. They tell us one thing and then they do something else. And then we just let them do it over and over again. And that's a dangerous place to be, and we're giving them all this power. Yeah, it's pretty whacked up. So then $600. $600. That's the number that the IRS is going to start having. If you have more than $600 in your checking account or savings account or PayPal or whatever, $600, you have an account that has $600 or 601 or more. This is very clear. The government will, or the bank or the institution will be required to send that transaction, every transaction that you make with that account that's over $600, to the IRS. And we all know that when the IRS gets money or gets information about your money, what happens? They decide, oh, you can't have all that money. We want some of that, and they just take it right out of your account. Well, they are going to charge people $14,000 per infraction for this COVID vaccine. So they're going to have your information in your personal checking account. And if you own the business, Business Inc., and you have more than $600 in your account, every transaction you make goes to the IRS. And when you don't send those COVID test results in, or the vaccine card in the right amount of time, you will get a $14,000 fine for every infraction. And since they already have access to your accounts, it'll be gone. So, as I said before, invest in commodities, invest in getting debt free so people can't take stuff from you. It's getting harder and harder, guys. And I can't say it enough. Get debt free. A couple months ago, I said, find the job you want because they're all available. Find the job you want, get that job, and then you will move up. And some people listened and they are moving up. Well, we are about to see a big old mass exodus of employees from all kinds of jobs because some people can't get vaccinated. And some people are choosing not to. And so a lot of jobs are going to come open by the people that are vaccinated, or for the people that are vaccinated. So you are about to go into a situation where it's going to be hard to find a job, and your minimum wage isn't enough. We have inflation happening real time right now. It's happening. Check out the GDP. People are going to be desperate really soon. And some people are just going to go and get the vaccine. And that's fine if that's what they choose to do. Yeah, not against the vaccine. I am against them mandating it. And they're doing it just the way they did with Twitter. This started when President Trump was dumped off Twitter. I mean, you gotta be honest. I mean, when the government was able to start censoring the president, I'm sorry, not the government, when a political party started censoring a sitting president, things started to get weird. And they're still doing it. And Jen Psaki even said they flag stuff for Facebook and for YouTube. They say, YouTube, this is false information. So everything that comes from the political party's adversary is automatically labeled as false information. Well, I don't have a political party, but I can tell you this Democratic Party that we have right now in charge is not working for the people. And I haven't heard Jen Psaki brag about how we have an all-women's administration, all-women administration in a while. So either Joe Biden is just completely messing us up, or all the women are completely messing us up. So which one is it? Okay, I'm joking because, the Trump administration had just as many women working for him, and it wasn't this mess and this chaos. Veterans are mad. Veterans are so mad. Veterans are pissed. Usually when things like this happen, veterans get suicidal, which is the worst thing. But that's not the case. I mean, we've got some out there, but that's not the case this time. We actually have veterans that are starting to work out again. When you leave the military, you usually tell people, and you're like, hey, when I left the military, I said I'd never run a mile again, or I'd never do another push-up, right? Well, you got guys and girls that are saying, shit, I got to get myself in shape. Yeah, people are freaked out. Even trained military people are freaked out. I hope that this is all wrong and that this is overblown. But these mandates have a lot of peripheral crap that is going to happen. And while all this is happening, there's a couple other bills that are going to be, I'll just start tweeting this crap out. I can't even keep up. They are wagging stuff over here, and they're wagging stuff over here, and it's not just misdirection for one thing, it's misdirection for a whole lot of stuff, guys. You are going to be losing your liberties soon. You just are. And gosh, it seems like every generation says this, but when you have to show a paper to go into a building, you've lost your liberties. Now, I'm saying I'm okay with a business saying, hey, you got to wear a mask to come in here. I want vaccinated people. That's fine. When the government starts fining businesses that don't want to do what the government says, and it really is it's just stupid. At some point, you have to let people have responsibility for their own stupid decisions. If you think that the vaccine and the mask and the pills and all that stuff is 100% right, good for you. If you think it's 100% wrong, good for you. That's what makes America great. Both of you guys can be wrong. It's just it. We can all be wrong. We have to do what we think is best for us, talk to our doctors, and do what the right thing is for our families. And for me, it's staying away from all you nasty people. Yeah. And I say nasty people because I still see this more often than not. And it's always the unmasked. Actually, it's the masked too now. But people don't wash their hands when they're in the bathroom. Come in, use the bathroom, walk out. Not even a trickle of water. So, you want to know what's causing this pandemic? It's simple. People stopped caring because it got so political, and people stopped caring so much they're not washing their hands and they're nasty. Wash your hands, cough in your elbow. 99% of this crap is unnecessary. But since there's some nasty people out there, we're going to have to do some stuff to protect ourselves. Not our job to protect other people. It's our job to protect ourselves and our family. If you are getting in somebody else's business, you need to get your nose out. Until next time, work hard, be kind, and have fun.